Welcome to English Speak Pulse. I'm Danielle, and let me ask you something that might feel uncomfortably familiar. Why is it that you understand English? You can read English. You might even speak English. But when it's time to communicate, to explain your ideas clearly, to express yourself confidently, to make people truly understand you, everything feels difficult. You know the words. You know the grammar. But your message doesn't land. Your confidence disappears. And later you think, I could have said that better. That's not an English problem. That's a communication problem. And joining me today is my co-host, Sarah.
Thank you, Danielle. I'm Sarah, and here's a truth most learners never hear. Communication is not about speaking more English. It's about thinking clearly, listening deeply, and expressing ideas in a way others can feel and understand. You can have perfect grammar and still be a weak communicator. And you can use simple English and communicate powerfully.
In this episode, we're going beyond vocabulary and grammar. We're talking about how real communication works. In offices, in interviews, in meetings, in daily life, and in moments that actually matter.
We'll explore why people struggle to communicate even after years of learning English, how fear and overthinking silently block expression, and how you can build calm, confident communication step by step, even if English is not your first language.
If you've ever felt misunderstood, if you've ever stayed silent because you didn't know how to say something clearly, or if you've ever thought, my English is okay, but my communication is weak, this episode is for you.
Because today, you're not just learning how to speak English. You're learning how to connect, explain, and express yourself with clarity. This is English Speak Pulse, where English communication becomes clear, confident, and powerful.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So, you sent us a really fascinating stack of material this time, all focused on one big and, let's be honest, often frustrating goal: improving communication. And it really zeroes in on that mystery where, you as a learner, you study English for years, you know the grammar, you've memorized the vocabulary lists.
You've done all the work.
Exactly. And yet, when you actually go to talk to someone, the message just kind of breaks.
Yeah.
Your confidence just tanks and you walk away feeling like you weren't really understood.
It's such a common trap. I'd even call it a global learning trap because most people who tackle a language head on start with this faulty assumption.
Which is?
That speaking English fluently is the same thing as being a master communicator. They think, if I just get the language perfect, that connection will, magically appear.
Right, but all the sources you sent in, they just tear that idea apart. So our mission today is to pull out the insights that explain why mastering the language just isn't enough to master the skill of communication. We're going to give you the blueprint for actually being understood, for expressing your ideas without all that confusion, and for building real, solid confidence.
And we can start with the biggest takeaway, the one that should honestly change your whole perspective right from the jump.
Okay, what is it?
Communication is not the same as speaking English. That's it. That's the fundamental distinction. You can be perfectly fluent, use all these complex sentences, and still completely fail to get your idea across.
And on the other hand, you can use incredibly simple English, really basic words, and be a powerful, clear, persuasive communicator.
Yes.
What really stood out to me was that the true goal isn't just knowing the language tools, it's being able to manage the message itself. The whole interaction.
Absolutely. We have to redefine the goal. It's not about how many words you know.
Yeah.
The real questions are you understood right away? Can you explain something complex in a simple way? And, the big one, do you connect with your listener? If the answer is no, your language level doesn't matter.
Okay, so let's unpack this new formula because it really challenges where most people, where you spend your time and energy. We're always told to chase the next advanced vocab word or that tricky grammar tense.
Right, the conditional tense that you'll use maybe twice a year.
Exactly. But the sources, they lay out a different structure, a three-part formula.
They do, and it's communication equals clear thinking plus clear expression plus connection. Think of it like a three-legged stool.
Okay.
If any one of those legs is weak or missing, So if your thinking is muddy or your words are all scattered or you just don't connect with the person you're talking to, the whole thing just collapses. Communication breaks down.
And what's so wild is that most learners, as you said, they spend something like 95% of their effort on just one of those legs, expression.
Just expressions.
The grammar, the pronunciation, the words, they're just polishing and polishing this one leg that's probably already pretty strong while completely ignoring the other two legs, thought and connection.
Let's connect this to real life for a second. Think about people you know.
Yeah.
You definitely know someone who uses plain, simple English. Maybe their accent isn't perfect, but when they speak, you get it instantly.
Okay. They're efficient.
Super efficient. And that efficiency comes from the other two pillars. It comes from clear thinking and a real connection to their listener.
And now contrast that with, well, we all know this person too, the speaker with textbook perfect grammar who uses these huge academic words and builds these long, complex sentences.
And by the time they finish the sentence, you've completely forgotten what the point was.
You're just lost. And you're not confused because their English was bad, their English was perfect. You're confused because their communication failed.
And that's it. That's not a language skill gap, it's a communication skill gap. And it points to the huge misunderstanding we started with. So many of you are training your English, the language, but your communication, the actual skill, isn't getting any better because you're training the wrong thing.
Which I think brings us right to the idea of correcting the old improvement checklist. Because following the traditional advice, it can actually make you a worse communicator.
It really can. So based on what we saw in the sources, let's just state it plainly. Here's what improving your communication is not. It is absolutely not about learning harder grammar.
Okay.
It does not mean you need to go memorize another list of obscure vocabulary. And this one is so important for confidence. It does not mean you have to sound like a native speaker.
I think just hearing that is a huge release of pressure for so many people. Because that deep frustration that you feel, it comes from that moment. That moment where the idea is perfect in your mind.
Crystal clear.
Right. You know exactly what you want to say, but the second you open your mouth, the sentence just collapses, the structure is gone, and poof, the confidence evaporates.
And that collapse, as the sources all point out, is almost never a language failure. It's a communication structure failure. It's a failure in how the thought itself was organized.
So what does improvement actually mean then?
It means learning to organize your thoughts before you even start to speak. It means choosing the right words for your listener, not just the fanciest words you know. It means controlling your delivery, your tone, your speed, and, this is so critical, it means actually paying attention to your listener.
So we need to shift our focus from, let's say, grammar structure, like is my verb in the right place, to idea structure.
Idea structure. It's like the difference between a master carpenter and a master architect. Grammar gives you the tools, the wood and the nails, but idea structure gives you the blueprint for the entire house.
That's a great way to put it.
Fluent communicators, they don't just speak correctly. They know what their single main point is. They know the 2 or 3 supporting details that come next, and maybe most importantly, they know when to stop talking.
They use structure to guide the listener. It's like signposting on a road trip. If you try to tell me the entire journey at once, all the side roads, the gas stops, the detours, everything, I'm overwhelmed before we even leave the driveway.
Exactly. I'm already lost.
But if you just say, okay, our main destination is Paris, there are 2 steps. First, we drive to the coast. Second, we take the train. I can follow that. I get it. And if you make a small mistake later, like a wrong turn, it doesn't matter because I still know the overall plan.
That is the perfect analogy. And this brings us to the real enemy of clarity.
Yeah.
This was a huge aha moment for me in the research. Communication doesn't usually fail because of small mistakes. It fails because of overload.
Okay, let's dig into that. Overload. Because it shows up in ways that feel like a language problem, but they're really a structure problem.
Right.
It's too many ideas crammed into one sentence. It's too many unnecessary words you're using just to sound impressive, and it's just too much pressure you put on yourself to perform.
And the immediate result is cognitive overload for your listener. Their brain just can't process it all. Imagine you're in a meeting and the speaker is trying to tell you every single tiny background detail about a project.
Instead of just the 3 key things I actually need to know.
Yes. And as the listener, you're trying to filter the important stuff from all that noise, and eventually your brain just checks out. It gives up.
So that means the real job of a good communicator is to reduce the load. It's about making it easy for the other person to listen.
It reduces the cognitive load for both of you. For you, the speaker, because you don't have to scramble for those complex, distracting words, and for the listener, because they don't have to dig through a mountain of information to find your point.
Clear communicators are basically good editors.
Excellent editors. They simplify. They have the confidence to say only what matters, instead of feeling like they have to prove how smart they are by saying everything that could be said.
And this brings up a really important point. Clarity is not the same as correctness. If your intention is clear, and you use simple sentences, a logical order, and you pause, those small grammar mistakes we obsess over, they suddenly become irrelevant.
They really do. The listener understands the core message because the structure is solid. They'll fill in the blanks if your grammar slips a little because the idea itself is so clear. All they really need is a clear point and a clear direction.
Yeah, and that gets us to this paradox because a lot of learners think, to be a good communicator, I have to speak more. I have to fill every silence.
I have to prove I can talk, right?
Right. But the research is clear. Good communication often means speaking less, but better. Rushing just creates confusion.
Strong communicators manage the whole interaction, not just their own monologue. They use silence as a tool. They pause, they let the listener absorb the information, they watch for a reaction, a nod, and then they respond to that.
That frantic need to just fill the air is often what causes the sentences to collapse in the first place.
It is. You're trying to do your thinking and you're speaking at the exact same time, and it just doesn't work.
Okay, this is the action section. For you listening at home, what does this actually mean for your daily practice? We're going to break the skill down into 3 simple, actionable layers. This is your new checklist.
Layer 1 is the foundation. It's the prerequisite. We call it thought clarity. And this is a step that I swear almost everyone skips.
And if you skip layer 1, you're building a roof with no walls. It is going to collapse instantly.
Instantly.
The question you have to ask before you say a single word is not, what English words should I use? It's 2 other questions. What is my absolute main point? And why am I saying this right now?
I mean, if your thought is vague, your speech will be vague. It doesn't matter what your English level is. If you haven't identified that core message, the headline for your idea, you're just going to wander.
So how do you practice that?
The best way is to take English out of it completely. Before a meeting, can you summarize your complex idea in one simple sentence in your native language? If the answer is no, you are not ready to say it in English.
I love that. Okay, that brings us to layer 2, expression clarity. So once your thought is sharp, your expression has to be controlled.
And this means choosing simple words, using short sentences, and using those natural pauses to give the listener a second to process what you just said. It's about having the biggest impact with the least amount of noise.
And here's where we have to kill that myth that advanced English is better. You don't need advanced English. You need controlled English.
That's it.
Controlled English using simple, clear structures is powerful English because there's no room for misunderstanding. Control is the marker of mastery, not complexity.
And finally, that brings us to the 3rd leg of the stool, layer 3, connection. You have to remember, communication is an interaction. It is not a performance.
So this is about watching the other person. Are they nodding? Do they look confused? It means you might need to slow down or just check in with a quick, does that make sense? If you're just delivering a monologue you rehearsed in your head without reacting to them, it feels forced and the message just won't land.
That's what transforms it from speaking at someone to speaking with them.
So we got the formula, the enemy, and the layers. What is the single most powerful mindset shift from all this research?
It's this. Your goal is not to sound smart. Your goal is not to sound impressive. Your goal is simply to be understood. That's it.
When you really adopt that as your goal, everything changes. Your strategy, your word choice.
Your confidence skyrockets.
Yeah.
Because you stop performing. You stop trying to impress them with fancy words, and you just focus on the simple, clear, effective transfer of an idea.
And you have to remember this. Communication is a skill. It's not a personality trait. People are not born communicators. They are trained communicators.
They are trained in structuring their ideas and managing an interaction. And that means this is a skill that is 100% trainable for you, step by step, without all the pressure of trying to be perfect.
Mastery is in the clarity, not the complexity. Which leaves us with a final thought for you to explore.
If communication mastery really starts with idea structure and self-awareness, with knowing your main point before you speak, where's the most effective place for you to practice that clear thinking? Before you even open your mouth to say a single word in English, start training layer 1 today.
Welcome to the deep dive, where we take the frustration out of information overload. And today we are diving into a tension point that I think almost every learner of a second language, especially English, knows really, really well. It's that deep internal frustration. You know, you've done the work, you know the vocabulary, you get the grammar rules, you can form sentences perfectly in your head, but then when it's time to actually communicate under pressure, say in a meeting or during a presentation, something just fails, people misunderstand you, your message feels, I don't know, weaker than it did in your head, and you walk away feeling totally unheard.
It's a profoundly confusing experience. And the most common knee-jerk reaction is to think, oh, my English level must be too low, I need to study more. But what's so fascinating is the source material we looked at is that in most cases, that's not the root cause at all. What's missing is not English knowledge, but communication alignment. Knowing English and actually using it effectively under pressure, they're two very, very different skills.
Okay, let's unpack that. Because the core premise here is this illusion we all have. If communication was really just about test scores, then the people with the highest grammar scores will always be the best communicators in the room.
And that's just not true. We see it every day.
Right.
You see people who speak relatively simple English, maybe with a strong accent, but they're incredibly powerful. Their message it lands.
Yeah.
And then you see others who have this huge vocabulary, but they can't structure a thought, and they lose their audience in like 2 sentences.
So the mission for this deep dive isn't to tell you to go study more. It's to help you understand that the real problem isn't what you know. It's how you use it under real conditions. We're going to break down the 4 hidden gaps that block communication.
And we should start with the first one, which is all about what's happening inside your head.
Right. Gap 1. Thinking is faster than structure. This one, I feel like this is universal. Your ideas are just rushing into your mind. They're complex. They're overlapping.
It may be emotionally charged if it's something you really care about.
Exactly. And when you finally open your mouth, because there's no organization, you dump it all on the listener at once.
And the listener immediately gets overwhelmed. They're trying to catch 5 different threads at the same time, and they end up with none of them. We have to stress this. Communication is not idea dumping. It is fundamentally about guiding the listener.
Guiding them. So like from point A to point B.
Precisely. You have to give them a map. If you speak grammatically perfect English, but you haven't provided that map, the message fails.
So even if my sentences are correct, if the structure isn't there, it's just confused noise.
It's just confusing noise. The listener doesn't need every fact in your brain. They need a framework to put the most important facts into.
And that failure, that lack of structure, often triggers the second gap, because when we feel misunderstood, the anxiety it skyrockets.
It does. Which leads us to gap 2, which is highly physiological. It's about what happens in your body.
Yeah.
Gap 2. Fear changes how you speak. This is about the physical reality of being listened to, especially when you feel like you're being evaluated. Your body starts to react, your heart rate actually increases, your breathing gets shallow, and this is critical. Your thinking speed temporarily drops. It's a stress response.
And that physical state completely messes with your ability to speak. It's why you might suddenly start talking way too fast.
Or forget simple words you know perfectly well.
Yeah, or you lose your train of thought halfway through a sentence. It's like the words are just gone.
And the key insight here is so important. Fear doesn't erase your English knowledge. It doesn't delete the file.
Right.
It just temporarily blocks access to that information. The grammar is still there, the vocabulary is still there, but the connection gets severed by anxiety.
So you're working with a much smaller mental toolbox in that moment.
Exactly.
And that block, that feeling of being stuck, that leads directly into the next mistake we all make.
It does. Gap 3. Over-explaining instead of clarifying. So when you feel that block, or you see a confused look on the listener's face, what's your first instinct?
I didn't give them enough information.
Exactly.
So I need to add more. I'll try explaining it this way and then maybe this way, and I'll add more details.
And you just keep talking, throwing in extra clauses, tangential details, repeating the same point 3 different ways, hoping one of them sticks. But here's the counterintuitive part from the research. Clarity almost always comes from less, not more.
Less, not more.
Over-explaining just confuses people. They lose the main point in all the noise. We call it clarity by subtraction.
But wait, why does over-explaining make you sound unsure? I would think it makes you sound like an expert.
Because conviction is efficient. If you really understand your point, you can deliver it in one clean sentence and then just stop. When you add 5 caveats and 3 extra examples, you're basically signaling to the listener that even you aren't fully confident in your core message. Strong communicators know when to stop talking.
That's a lesson in confidence just as much as communication.
Wow. Okay, and that brings us to the final gap, which kind of ties everything together.
Gap 4. Ignoring the listener. This one is huge, and it's all about focus. When most learners speak, where's their focus? It's all internal.
Right. Is my grammar okay? How's my accent? Oh, I just made a mistake.
Exactly. You're so wrapped up in your own performance that you forget the entire point of the act.
Which is?
Shared understanding. Communication is not just self-expression, it's a two-way street. If you're so focused on your own anxiety, you completely miss the feedback loop.
The listeners frown, or the fact that they're looking at their phone.
Yeah, that subtle shift in body language that screams, I'm confused.
Yeah.
If you don't see that and adjust, the communication is already broken no matter how perfect your sentences are.
It's the difference between delivering a monologue and having a dialogue.
Precisely. If you're not monitoring listener, you can't course correct. Okay, so we've got the 4 culprits. No structure. Fear blocking your knowledge, over-explaining, and ignoring the listener. And this is where people get stuck. They see these problems and they think, right, I need to fix my English.
And they go right back to the textbooks. They start studying more grammar, memorizing more words, thinking more input is the fix.
But that's the wrong tool for the job.
Completely. Why would studying more English fix any of those 4 gaps? Think about it. Grammar books don't teach you how to organize your ideas in real time.
No.
They don't teach you how to manage fear or read an audience.
Or how to simplify a message on the fly. Those skills, as the sources say, they live outside textbooks.
Exactly. You can be a grammar genius, but if you panic and dump all your ideas in one breathless run-on sentence, it's useless.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. This is the moment for what you call the critical shift.
The critical shift is moving your focus from language to message.
Yeah.
You have to stop asking yourself, is my English correct?
Yeah.
And start asking a new question.
Which is
my message clear? Am I guiding my listener effectively?
But hold on. If I stop focusing on getting the grammar right, won't my English just get sloppy? That's a real fear.
It's a natural fear, but the reality is counterintuitive. When you focus on clarity, your language actually improves in the ways that matter. When your goal is clarity, you automatically pick simpler sentences. You use structures you know you can deliver under pressure.
I see. So you're not abandoning grammar, you're just prioritizing the grammar that actually serves the message.
Yes, you trade a little bit of linguistic risk for a huge gain in communicative success.
And the benefits are immediate.
Absolutely. Your sentences get simpler, your pace slows down because you're thinking about guiding, not just finishing, and your confidence goes up because you have a clear intention.
You're speaking with intention, not anxiety. I like that.
It's a game changer.
But let's get into the mechanics. Even with this new intention, why does it still feel so hard in the moment?
It feels hard because of cognitive overload. Your brain is trying to manage way too much at once. You're thinking about grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, accent, and the listener's reaction all in real time.
It's too much to juggle.
It is. Your working memory gets maxed out, and the first thing to go to is clarity. The brain just runs out of resources to structure the output.
So we need to reduce that mental load.
Yes. And that brings us to the most practical tool from this deep dive. A single question to filter out all the noise.
We're calling it the communication filter technique. It's incredibly simple, but powerful. Before you speak, whether it's a quick answer or a 10-minute talk, you pause and ask yourself one question. What is the one thing I want the listener to understand?
That question is an essential mental filter. It forces you to move past idea dumping and over-explaining. For example, say you're asked for a project update. It was complicated, there were delays.
A total mess.
Right. But your filter question is, what's the one thing they need to know? The answer might be, the deadline is secure, but the budget went up 15%.
So instead of telling the whole messy story, you start with that conclusion.
Yes. You start with the main point. The filter forces you to lead with what matters. You only add details if they ask. It tackles all 4 gaps at once.
And we have to just briefly touch on the confidence cycle this creates. Because miscommunication, it really hurts.
It does. When you're constantly misunderstood, you internalize it.
Yeah.
You start to doubt yourself, you speak less, you avoid meetings.
You stay silent, even when you have something valuable to say.
And that silence isn't a lack of ability, it's self-protection. It's a response to repeated failure to connect.
But the good news here is you don't need another 5 years of homework to break that cycle.
That's absolutely right. The research is clear. Communication skill improves fast once you train the right things. We're not talking about vocabulary size first. We're talking about training idea structure, message clarity, emotional control, and listener awareness.
These are trainable skills. They require practice, not just more input.
Exactly. Once you start focusing on how to structure your ideas and manage your internal state, English stops feeling so heavy.
It becomes a tool you can actually use, not a burden you have to carry.
So the next time you feel blocked, don't automatically reach for the grammar book.
Instead, check your process. Ask yourself, did I structure this? Did I simplify it? Did I check in with my listener?
And here's a final provocative thought for you to take away from all this. If these skills like emotional control and idea structure are trainable faster than memorizing thousands of words, then what is the smallest, simplest structure you could practice using this week? Maybe it's just main point, reason one, reason two, summary. Try using that tiny structure in a low-stakes conversation and just notice what happens to your clarity and your confidence.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. We hope this shifts your perspective on what truly makes a powerful communicator.
Thank you for diving deep with this.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a really fascinating stack of sources that all point to one thing. The most important part of communication is, well, the part you never actually see. It's the thinking, the planning, the filtering, all that stuff that happens before you even say a single word.
Right.
So our mission today is pretty simple. We want to give you a shortcut to understanding why real clarity, especially in English, isn't about, advanced grammar. It's all about how you organize your thoughts.
The common instinct is that communication starts the moment you start speaking. But the research it's just crystal clear on this point. If your thinking is unstructured, your speaking will be too. It'll be a mess. It doesn't matter how perfect your vocabulary is.
I think we've all been there. You know exactly what you want to say in your head, but then you open your mouth and it's 3 different ideas all try to come out at once.
Yes.
And suddenly you're lost in your own sentence.
That's the exact phenomenon we need to break down. So many people, and this is especially true for language learners, they start talking while their thoughts are still kind of messy. The ideas overlap, sentences compete, and the listener just feels lost. Why?
Yeah.
Because the speaker themselves is lost. They haven't picked a path.
So the focus has to shift away from perfect language and toward organized thinking.
Organized thinking. And let's get one thing straight right away, because this is really important.
Okay.
You're not aiming to think in perfect English. That just adds a ton of pressure you don't need.
Right. That's not the goal.
No. The goal is to think in simple, clear English. Clarity always beats complexity. You don't train this by studying more grammar. You train it by learning how to shape your thoughts before they become words.
Okay, so let's get into the root cause of what you called that messy thinking. Our sources call it the dual task problem.
This is such a critical idea. When you're under pressure, say, in a meeting, you're often doing 2 really hard things at the same time.
Okay, what are they?
You're thinking of the idea in your native language, and you're trying to translate and structure it in English at the same time.
It's like trying to juggle while riding a unicycle. Your brain is just overloaded.
Total cognitive overload. And what happens then, neurologically, is that your thinking gets rushed. The brain starts prioritizing just getting an idea out over getting a complete idea out.
So you just jump from one thing to the next without finishing.
Exactly. You never fully land the first point before you're already onto the second one. The result is, well, the listener can't follow you because, frankly, you can't follow you.
So here's where it gets really, really interesting. Because the solution is so simple, it feels almost wrong.
It's counterintuitive.
Yeah. The strongest communicators, they don't just start talking, they do something else first.
They pause.
They pause, even for just a second.
And that 1 second changes everything. The sources call this the principle of pre-structure. It's just a quick, silent mental outline. That pause is your brain's defense mechanism against that overload we were talking about.
So in that 1 second, what's happening?
You're answering 3 questions silently.
Yeah.
First, what is my main point?
Yeah.
The one single thing. Second, why does it matter? Why should the other person care? And third, what's one example or explanation to back it up?
Just having those 3 things in your head, even if you don't say them all, gives you a roadmap.
It's scaffolding. It prevents the whole thing from collapsing. And this leads right into something called the one idea rule. This will instantly improve your clarity.
The one idea rule, I like the sound of that.
It's simple. If you try to say 3 things at once, nothing is understood. So before you speak, you decide, what is the one idea I need to communicate right now?
So instead of saying the budget is tight and we need new software and also morale is low.
Which is a total mess.
Yeah.
The listener's brain just shuts down.
You pick one.
You pick one. The budget is tight. That's your focus. Everything else can wait, or it becomes support for that one idea.
All right, so we have the principle, which is pre-structure. Let's get more specific. The sources gave a really actionable framework for this.
Yeah, the 3-step thinking frame. It's point, reason, support.
Point, reason, support. Okay, walk us through it.
Let's use an example. Imagine you're in a meeting. The first step is the point, your main conclusion. So you might think, I think this plan is risky.
Simple. Direct. I know exactly where you stand.
Then comes the reason, the why, because the timeline is very short.
Okay, makes sense.
And finally, the support, the evidence. For example, we don't have enough resources to meet that deadline.
Point. It's risky. Reason. The timeline's short. Support. We don't have the resources. As a listener, I'm never lost. It's perfectly clear.
And the key thing here is you don't have to say all 3 parts out loud every single time. Not at all.
Oh,
But just having them structured in your head means your communication is focused. Even if you only say the point, you have the reason and support ready to go if someone asks, why do you think that?
So how do really fluent communicators do this so fast? I mean, they're not sitting there thinking point, reason, support in their heads, are they?
No, it becomes automatic. They think in what the sources call idea chunks.
Idea chunks.
Yeah. Instead of trying to build this long, perfect paragraph in their head, they just focus on one thing. Their whole goal is, let me explain this one small thing clearly.
That feels so much less stressful.
It's a huge psychological shift. And this connects directly back to that translation problem. People start translating because they're trying to hold on to these big, complex thoughts from their native language.
So if the original thought is simpler,
the need for complex translation it melts away.
Give me an example of that.
Okay, so your native thought might be something super complex like, this multifaceted issue is contingent on several interdependent variables and requires immediate strategic reassessment.
Wow. Yeah, trying to translate that on the spot would be a nightmare.
A total nightmare. So the skill is to reduce it first. Reduce it to the simple English thought. This is a problem.
Huh. Okay. This is a problem.
Start there. Once you've said that clearly, you can add the complexity back in, layer by layer.
Right.
But you've established a clear, simple foundation first.
We have to talk about the pause, though, the fear of the pause. So many learners think that if they pause, they look, I don't know, weak or like
Right.
they don't know the answer.
It's the complete opposite. That's a perception we have to just totally reverse. A pause doesn't make you look weak. It makes you look thoughtful.
Deliberate, in control.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Think of any great speaker or leader you admire. They don't rush. They use pauses strategically. It organizes their thinking, it slows their pace, and it makes what they say so much clearer.
It's a sign of confidence, not a lack of it.
100%.
Okay, let's get into the training. The really practical exercises you can start doing, like today, to build this skill.
Great. We've got 3 really strong exercises from the sources, and they're about training your thinking, not your vocabulary.
Let's start with exercise 1. It's called silent pre-speaking.
This one is maybe the simplest, but also the hardest habit to build. It's just this. You have to force yourself to pause for 1 second before you answer any question.
Just 1 second.
1 second. And in that second, you silently ask yourself, what is my main point? That's it. You're interrupting that impulse to just react and rush.
And that little interruption gives your brain the space to use that pre-structure principle we talked about.
And you will notice a difference almost immediately. Your delivery will just feel more structured, more calm.
Okay, what about exercise 2? This one is about training simplicity.
This one is called one-sentence thinking. You take a big, complicated topic. Let's say work stress.
Okay, work stress, a huge topic.
And you force yourself to reduce your entire take on it to a single sentence first. So your one-sentence thought might be, work stress comes from unclear expectations.
Okay, that's a really clear foundation.
It's your anchor. Everything else you say about it can build from that one clear idea. You can't ramble if you know exactly where you're going.
I love that. And the last one, exercise 3, mental bullet points. This is for when you need to speak for a bit longer, right?
Exactly, like giving an update in a meeting. And the key here is that these mental bullet points are ideas, not full sentences.
So you're not memorizing a script.
God, no. That's the worst thing you can do. Your mental bullets might just be 3 words for a project update. 1, results. 2, problem. 3, Next step.
Results, problem, next step. That gives you guardrails for your speech. It stops you from wandering off track.
It frees up your brain. You're not trying to remember specific words, so you can just focus on explaining the ideas clearly. The structure is already there for you.
So if you, the listener, start doing this, what's the payoff? I mean, beyond just being clearer, how does it feel?
This is what the sources call the confidence cycle. When your thoughts are organized, your body physically relaxes. You're not fighting with yourself anymore.
And when you're relaxed, your voice changes.
Your voice becomes calmer, slower, more measured. And a calm voice sounds confident. It sounds credible, even if you're using simple English.
So the benefits just start stacking up.
They absolutely do. You speak slower, your ideas land better, and interestingly, people interrupt you less.
Why is that?
Because they can tell you know where you're going. They trust that you're going to get to the point. You're in control.
It all comes back to this one idea. Communication gets easier not when you learn more words, but when you stop fighting your own thoughts.
That's the anchor truth of this whole deep dive. You don't need better English to communicate better. You need clearer thinking. And that is a skill you can train.
This has been such a critical look at the silent work behind great communication. The big takeaways for me are that 1-second strategic pause and that point reason support frame. Use it as your default.
Yeah.
And we want to leave you with a provocative thought to mull over. If we accept that clarity comes from simplicity and from pausing, how often in your daily life in any language do you sacrifice true understanding just for the sake of speed? What could you gain by just slowing down for 1 strategic second? Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your source material, tear through the data, and deliver the essential insights so you can walk away better informed.
So let's start with a question for you.
Okay.
If I asked you, what's the single best way to improve your communication? What would you say?
Oh, that's easy. I think most people, maybe even you listening, would immediately say something like, grammar, vocabulary, or maybe speaking more clearly.
That's the classic answer, isn't it? We always treat communication like it's a performance problem.
Right, like the speaker is the one who's messing it up.
Exactly. We assume that if we could just talk better, everything would magically click into place. But the source material we analyze for this deep dive, it just flips that whole idea on its head.
Completely upside down. The sources argue, and I think really convincingly, that the struggle it's not primarily about your speaking ability.
No, not at all. It's about your listening.
It's your listening ability. The foundation of strong communication isn't having this, silver tongue. It's having a calm, focused ear.
And if your listening is weak, your ability to speak well is always going to be crippled. Doesn't matter how many new words you learn.
And that's really our mission for you today. We want to execute a total perspective shift.
We're trying to pull you away from this high-stress idea of flawlessly translating every single word in your head.
And move you toward understanding the deeper meaning, the intention behind what's being said. We're going to show you how to stop making communication feel like this exhausting mental marathon.
And instead make it effective, immediate, and honestly, surprisingly restful.
Yeah, we're diving deep into why listening is so consistently underestimated, and we'll give you concrete ways to stop listening just to prepare a reply.
And start listening to actually understand.
Okay, so let's start with that failure point, this invisible barrier that we build inside our own heads.
So what are the big problematic tendencies the sources talk about?
Well, they identified 3 common culprits, and they all kind of lead to the same thing, mental overload. First, we listen to respond. We jump in the second the speaker pauses.
But not because we've actually processed their point.
No, it's because we've finished planning our reply.
And that ties right into the next 2 things. While the other person is still talking, you're trying to do 2 things at once.
Right.
You're trying to translate every single word, and you're also trying to prepare your next sentence. I mean, just think about the chaos happening in your head.
It's total chaos. You're hearing sounds, you're trying to find the meaning, you're searching your brain for the perfect counter-argument, and you're worrying about your own grammar.
I've definitely felt that. So what do the sources say is the biggest symptom of all that mental overload?
Exhaustion,
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Communication feels draining, just absolutely draining, because your brain is trying to do too many complex things at the same time.
Right. The sources highlight that you're using up a huge amount of your working memory, just juggling all this stuff. You're translating, planning, reviewing, trying to protect yourself from mistakes.
And that intense internal focus leaves, almost zero brain power left for what you're supposed to be doing.
Which is actually understanding what the other person is saying.
It's like trying to run an advanced spreadsheet, a video game, and a word processor all at once on a really old computer.
Yeah, everything just slows down, you start missing the input.
And eventually the whole system just crashes. That mental busy work, that frantic planning, that's what stops real listening before it can even start.
That mental exhaustion makes a lot of sense. But if that's the internal cause, what about the structural challenges? Are there things in the environment that just make listening harder?
Absolutely. The sources basically break this down into 3 core difficulties.
Okay, what's the first one?
It's that laborious process of mental translation we just mentioned. So the information comes in, you hear the English sound.
And you have to convert it to your native language, process the meaning, and then you can think about a response.
But the killer is the time lag. By the time you get to meaning, the speaker has already moved on to the next sentence.
And that delay creates panic.
Total panic. And that panic doesn't just make your response weak. It basically guarantees you miss the next thing they say because you're still stuck on sentence number 1.
Okay, so that's the first one. What's the second reason?
This one is more psychological. It's the fear of missing something.
I know this one. The feeling that you have to understand every single word.
Exactly. We're sort of wired to think that understanding every word equals intelligence or competence.
Wait, but if I only listen for general understanding, aren't I risking missing something crucial? You know, especially in a high-stakes conversation like a negotiation or something technical, that feels a little risky.
That's a great point, but the sources actually challenge that assumption. They found that 100% word comprehension is almost never needed for successful communication.
So if you stop the entire conversation because one word was unclear,
you lose the whole story. The key finding here flips that pressure completely. It says communication thrives on general understanding. Your brain can fill in a missed detail later, but it can't process anything if you stop the flow.
That's actually really freeing. So we don't need 100% of the words to get, say, 90% of the meaning.
Exactly, which leads right into the third difficulty. This one's less about processing and more about our behavior.
Listening while preparing to speak.
Yep, we're not really absorbing information. We're just waiting for our turn.
Just waiting for a gap so we can jump in and hold the floor. We're basically formulating our own contribution, not engaging with theirs.
And the consequence of that is just devastating for any real connection. You are actively destroying your engagement with the speaker.
You're not tracking where their thoughts are going. You're just polishing your own pre-written speech that's probably not even relevant anymore.
Which brings us to the core solution, this critical shift that can transform everything. It's about moving from passive reception to what the sources call active but calm listening.
Okay, this is where it gets practical.
Right. So real listening isn't about collecting every single word like a data point. It's about focusing on 4 essential things.
And crucially, not every word.
Not every word. We need to zero in on the main idea, the overall emotion, the speaker's intention, and just the general direction of the message.
You know, think about people who are really fluent communicators. They don't have perfect dictionaries in their heads.
No.
They listen for direction and for context. They're always sort of asking themselves, what's the main story here? Are they happy? Are they upset? Are they advising me or asking for something?
And once that direction is clear, responding becomes so much simpler. It's direct, it's relevant, even if you missed a few words along the way.
So there's the critical shift. Defined. Stop listening to words. Start listening to meaning.
Can you break down why that works so well?
It works because words are always changing. I mean, we use synonyms, slang, different phrasing all the time. But the underlying meaning, the intention, that tends to stay consistent through a whole thought. So I've missed the word chasm, but I get that you're talking about a big, scary gap. I have the meaning. The specific word is just the container for it.
And this must be really effective when you're dealing with complex stuff or unfamiliar phrases.
Exactly. Even if a few specific words go right past you, you can still catch the meaning from all the other clues.
Like what?
Well, the sources detail how much meaning comes through tone of voice, or repetition of key ideas, or the example someone uses to clarify.
Or even just the emphasis they put on certain words. We need to treat those things as real data, not just focus on the vocabulary.
Okay, but we need a practical tool for this, right? Because just telling someone be calm is not enough to stop that internal mental sprint.
It's not. The sources offer a mechanism they call the listening filter technique.
This is the internal tool that's designed to manage that chaotic cognitive load we talked about. And it's radically simple.
So simple. While the other person is talking, you silently ask yourself just one or two really focused questions.
Like, what is the main point this person is trying to make?
Or just, what is the direction of this message?
And that's the filter. You're basically banning yourself from asking, what does every single word mean?
By cutting down the mental work to just one core question, this filter forces your mind to stay calm, stay focused on the big picture.
And that prevents the panic and information overload that we identified as the source of all that communication exhaustion.
And this technique has an incredible side benefit. The sources really emphasize that listening well actually improves your speaking automatically.
How so?
Well, when you accurately capture the direction and meaning of what someone said, your response is just naturally more accurate.
I see how that would reduce hesitation. If I know exactly what you meant, I don't have to pause and guess at your intent before I reply.
Precisely. You respond more accurately, you hesitate less because you're certain, and this is the big one, your confidence just skyrockets.
Because you're working from a place of understanding, not a place of fear.
It's a dual benefit. So you're not just responding better in that moment, you are subconsciously training your brain.
When you lower that internal noise, you create space for silent, automatic language acquisition.
That space is everything. Good listening builds your natural communication skills by letting your brain just absorb syntax patterns, natural responses, tone changes.
The whole rhythm of a conversation. And it happens all the time. Without any conscious effort or boring speaking drills, you're just modeling successful communication in real time.
And that's the real deep dive finding here. Instead of feeling like you have to constantly practice your output, you're using the most powerful tool you have.
Observation.
Yeah. Your brain is absorbing successful structures simply because that listening filter cleared out all the cognitive noise that was blocking the input.
Okay, let's make this really actionable. Let's translate this into steps you can start using today. We've pulled 3 key exercises from the source material.
And they're designed to attack the difficulties we just talked about.
Right. The first one is designed to immediately break that crippling habit of mental translation.
Exercise 1. Listen for the main idea. The rule here is strict. Listen to any English audio for 1 minute. A clip, a show, anything.
And do not pause. Do not rewind. And absolutely do not try to translate or look up words.
And the test for success is this. Afterward, ask yourself, what was the single main point of that minute?
If you can state that main point, your listening was successful. Even if you missed dozens of words, you trained your brain to focus on the big picture, not the tiny details.
Okay, exercise 2 directly addresses that fear of collapse.
Ignore unknown words. When you hear an unfamiliar word, the instruction is critical. Just let it pass. Do not stop. Do not fixate on it.
Because stopping breaks your understanding. The meaning will almost always become clear later from the context around it. You have to trust the flow over the dictionary.
I love that. Trust the flow. And finally, exercise 3, respond simply.
This one is about dismantling the anxiety we feel to craft the perfect, elegant reply. The sources emphasize using simple, effective phrases.
Things like, I see. That makes sense. Or, my favorite, the most powerful one, so you mean.
Simple responses are the lifeblood of conversational flow. They show you're tracking with the speaker without needing massive mental planning on your end.
You know, I used to think my replies had to be really sophisticated to prove I was smart.
Right.
But the sources confirm that those complex, overly careful replies often just signal stress. A simple, relevant, so you mean, is the most powerful tool we have.
And all this practice leads to a huge emotional payoff. Listening this way drastically reduces your fear of speaking.
How?
When you actually use the listening filter, your attention naturally shifts away from your internal self and that obsessive fear of making mistakes, and it moves externally toward the other person.
Fear grows when you're self-conscious, right? When you're watching your own performance. But confidence grows when you focus on the person you're actually talking to.
Listening just naturally shifts that focus. It makes the interaction about the information, not about your own perceived flaws.
So the final goal is clear then. Don't aim to reply perfectly.
Which is often the enemy of speed and relevance anyway. Aim instead to reply relevantly. Simple, relevant replies are the mark of a strong, confident communicator.
And they are only possible when you are truly, truly listening.
Let's just anchor everything we've discussed today with the central truth from this deep dive, which is maybe a little surprising.
The most effective path to becoming a better communicator is not about forcing yourself to talk more or drilling vocabulary.
It is entirely about mastering the art of listening better.
Once that listening process becomes calm, active, and laser-focused on intention and meaning, not just the specific words.
The improvement in your speaking is immediate, it's automatic, and it eliminates all that exhausting mental busy work.
So as you go forward and start to implement this listening filter training yourself to ask, what's the main idea here? I want to leave you with a provocative thought.
If achieving that sense of calm is so essential for active listening, and if real understanding is about the whole arc of meaning, what critical nonverbal cues might you be missing right now in conversations, just because your mind is too busy planning the grammar of your next sentence? That sense of calm we talked about, it extends way beyond just what you hear. It dictates how much of the world you actually perceive.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something that, well, stops so many people dead in their tracks. It's this invisible wall that gets between you and clear communication in English, and that wall is confidence.
Right, and we should be really clear about what we mean by confidence.
Yeah, we're not talking about being the loudest person in the room. This isn't that kind of performative, look-at-me confidence.
No, not at all. Our research points to something much deeper. We're calling it quiet confidence. It's that internal feeling of, okay, I can say this.
It lets you get your ideas out clearly without rushing or, feeling like you have to apologize for your English.
And that's the crucial thing for you, the listener. You might have great English. You might think clearly. But if that quiet confidence isn't there in the moment you need to speak,
it all falls apart.
It can completely fail. So the core idea we're unpacking is this. Confidence isn't a personality trait you're born with. It's actually a condition.
A condition. Okay, I like that because it sounds manageable. If it's a condition, that implies there are things you can do to create it. So what are the components? What needs to be there for this condition to exist?
The material consistently points to three essential elements. It's like a three-legged stool. First, you need clarity. You have to know what you want to say.
Just the core idea.
Exactly. The second is safety. You have to feel, psychologically safe from being harshly judged.
And the third?
The third is permission to be imperfect. You have to consciously allow yourself to make a mistake. If any one of those three legs is missing, the whole thing just collapses.
Okay, let's pause on that third one. Permission to be imperfect. I mean, that feels like it goes against everything we're taught, especially for high achievers. The goal is always fluency.
Yeah.
Perfection.
Well, that's the trap. The moment you demand perfection from yourself, you automatically introduce fear. And fear just destroys clarity and safety.
So it's a vicious cycle.
It is. If you're terrified of one little mistake, your brain isn't focused on expressing an idea anymore. It's focused on avoiding risk. And that state, it's paralyzing.
So this flips that common belief completely on its head then. Most people think, I need to feel confident, and then I'll be able to speak well.
That is the classic misconception. The sources are really clear on this. The truth is the complete opposite.
Okay, what is it?
Confidence is the result of clear, repeated expression. It is not the cause of it. You don't wait for it to arrive. You have to build it, action by action.
You have to build it. That's the big aha moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we know it's a muscle we can build, let's talk about why it disappears so fast. I mean, why does confidence just vanish for so many people the second they have to speak English?
Well, our analysis shows three main reasons, and they're all basically psychological defense mechanisms. Your brain is trying to keep you safe.
The first one feels like the biggest. It's the fear of judgment. And it's not even a fear of English itself, is it?
No, never. You're not afraid of a verb tense. You're afraid of someone judging you for getting the verb tense wrong.
Or for your accent, or for pausing to think, or for using simple words.
Exactly. And that fear triggers something we call self-monitoring.
Okay, what's that?
Instead of focusing outward on getting your idea to the other person, your focus turns inward. You're speaking. And at the same time, you're listening to yourself, judging every word.
Oh, I've been there. You're talking, but this little voice in your head is going, was that the right word? Should I have said that differently?
And the moment that happens, the flow is dead. Confidence is flow. And you can't have flow when you're watching yourself speak.
So the first barrier is that external fear. The second one is internal. It's the over expectations we set for ourselves. We basically sabotage our own confidence before we start.
We do. We create these impossible standards like, I have to sound perfectly fluent, or I must speak like a native speaker.
Or I have to use really advanced vocabulary to sound smart.
But when you're measuring yourself against this impossible target, you're guaranteed to fail.
So even if you communicate your idea successfully, your brain logs it as a failure because you didn't sound like a BBC news anchor.
Precisely. And that weakens the confidence muscle instead of strengthening it. The goal can't be perfection, it has to be comprehension.
And the third barrier is rooted in memory, past negative experiences. This one can be really powerful, right? It doesn't have to be a big trauma.
Not at all. It could be one single moment. Someone laughed at your pronunciation once, years ago. A teacher corrected you harshly. You tried to explain something and just saw a blank, confused look on someone's face.
And that one moment sticks with you.
It sticks because your brain is designed to avoid emotional pain. So what does it do? The next time you're in a similar situation, it pulls your confidence away before you even speak. That anxiety you feel, it's just a protective reflex. It's a firewall trying to keep you safe.
Understanding that is so powerful. It's not you, it's your brain just trying to do its job.
Okay, let's pivot. Let's talk about the reset. How do we change the rules we're playing by?
This is the confidence reset. We have to shift the goal from performance to actual communication. The material gives us 3 new rules to live by.
Okay, rule number 1.
Clarity over cleverness.
Your job is to be understood, not to impress. I think this is so important for professionals.
It is, but people worry. They ask, but won't I sound, less credible if I use simple English?
That's a great question, and the answer is all in the delivery. Think about it. Simple English, delivered calmly and slowly, sounds authoritative.
Right.
Whereas really complex, advanced English, delivered nervously, that just signals fear and a lack of control. Calm clarity always wins.
Okay, so rule number 2 is progress over perfection. This one really gets at the action-based nature of confidence.
Every single time you get an idea across, even if it's imperfect, you've practiced the skill successfully, that's a win. That builds the muscle. And the contrast is silence. Every time you hold back an idea because you're waiting for the perfect sentence.
You're weakening the muscle. You're telling your brain, I can't do this. Speaking is the exercise.
And finally, rule number 3. Calm pace equals authority. Rushing is a direct signal of fear. You're basically telling everyone, including yourself, I need to get this over with before I'm found out.
But a pause is different. A pause signals control. You're not running, you're thinking. You're in charge.
And you don't need to fill that silence with A calm pause makes the listener lean in. It tells them something important is coming next. It reinforces your authority.
Okay, these rules are fantastic. Before we get into the practical techniques, let's just clarify what we're even aiming for. What does this quiet confidence actually feel like?
It's subtle. It's not a loud voice or speaking super fast. It's more of an internal state, it feels like. A steady pace, relaxed breathing, knowing what you want to say. And this is key. The willingness to keep going even if you stumble.
So how do we train for that internal state? Let's get into the techniques. Technique 1, speak one idea fully.
This is about breaking the task down. Don't try to say 3 things at once. Just commit to delivering one single thought clearly. For example, if someone asks what you did over the weekend, just say, I went to a museum. That's it. One complete idea.
And when you do that, when you successfully complete that one small task, your brain gets the message, oh, I can do this, I can communicate.
That small win is the engine of confidence. Technique 2 is to use grounding phrases.
These are like little lifelines, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you feel that panic start to rise at the beginning of a sentence.
Exactly. You can lean on simple structures like, let me explain one thing, or the main point is, or even just what I want to say is.
It gives you a structured start. It gives your brain a half second to catch up and organize the thought.
It signals that you're in control of the pacing. Okay. Technique 3 is about what happens when things go wrong mid-sentence, except imperfect starts.
So if you start a sentence and you realize you used the wrong word or tense, the rule is don't stop.
Do not stop. Stopping is a confidence catastrophe. It reinforces the idea that mistakes are fatal errors. Fluent speakers make mistakes all the time. They repair them as they go. They don't stop the whole conversation. Just keep going.
And technique 4 reminds us that confidence isn't just in your head, it's in your body.
Your body and mind are in constant conversation. When you feel fear, your shoulders tense up, your breathing gets shallow. We have to break that cycle.
So before you speak, you consciously do something physical.
Yes. Relax your shoulders. Take one slow, deep breath. Slow down your movements. A relaxed body produces a calmer, more resonant voice, and that sends a signal of safety back to your brain. It's a feedback loop you can control.
Okay, so as we start to wrap this up, let's talk about the things to avoid. The habits that actively kill this quiet confidence we're trying to build.
There are a few big ones. They're all actions that tell your brain, I am not capable.
Number 1, apologizing for your English. Sorry for my bad English.
2, explaining your level. I only started learning a year ago. 3, constantly correcting every tiny mistake you make. And 4, comparing yourself to others in the room.
Every time you do one of those, you're reinforcing the idea that you're not good enough.
And your brain believes what you tell it.
So this all leads to the final mindset shift for you, the listener. It's a pivot in the question you ask yourself after you speak.
Right. Stop asking the damaging question, was my English good?
Because that's all about perfection. Instead, start asking the only question that matters for communication.
Did I express my idea?
And that brings us right back to the beginning. That's the loop.
Successful expression builds confidence, and that confidence allows for even clearer expression. It's a cycle you have to start and then just keep going.
Absolutely. The takeaway here is that confidence isn't a feeling you wait for. It's a condition you build. You build it with deliberate, imperfect action by focusing on clarity over cleverness and progress over perfection.
And to leave you with one final thought, one core truth to carry forward from this deep dive, confidence is not something you feel before you speak. It's something you build because you speak.
Keep speaking, keep building, and you'll find that invisible wall starts to come down, replaced by a quiet, steady authority. Welcome to a deep dive that completely bypasses grammar and vocabulary. If you've spent hours, maybe years, perfecting your sentences and still feel like something's missing, like your English just lacks that authoritative edge, this is for you. Our mission today is to really get into the silent signals, the things that determine if your English sounds confident or, a little uncomfortable.
Exactly. And the sources we went through offer a pretty profound insight on this. Imagine two people. They stand side by side and they say the exact same sentence, grammatically perfect, and yet one of them sounds clear, confident, and the other just sounds unsure. The sources are really clear. The difference isn't the words, it's the delivery.
That's the real surprise here, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're not talking about your accent or finding fancier words. We're focusing on 3 pillars. The 3 things that listeners notice immediately, almost subconsciously, that really define how you come across. We're diving deep into flow, tone, and body language.
And these 3 things, they really override everything else. If you're tired of being correct but not, present, this is where the focus needs to be.
Which brings us right to that common feeling. I think we've all been there. You work so hard, you build the perfect sentence, and you walk away from the conversation thinking, well, it was correct, but it just didn't land right. Or worse, they understood me, but I didn't feel confident at all.
The reason for that disconnect is, well, it's pretty simple. It's how our brains work. Listeners don't sit there with a grammar checklist. They don't. They feel the message. And they feel it through these nonverbal signals you're sending out constantly. Your pace, your pauses, your tone, your posture.
These signals are like emotional truth tellers. If your pace is really fast and your shoulders are hunched up, the message isn't your vocabulary. The message is nervousness. So often we focus 90% on the words, but the listeners focus 90% on the delivery.
So the goal has to shift. I mean, it's a revolutionary shift for most learners. You have to just acknowledge, okay, I've got the technical stuff down. Now it's time to move past just being correct and into being a confident deliverer of your message.
Yeah.
Correctness gets you in the door. Delivery is what gives you a seat at the table.
Right. We're moving from the textbook into, I guess, performance psychology. And to start that journey, we have to talk about the foundation, the rhythm of your speech.
Which is flow. If your ideas are a car, flow is the road it drives on.
So what do we actually mean by flow? It's when your ideas move smoothly, your sentences connect in a natural way. And this is critical. Any pause you take feels intentional, like punctuation, not like you've hit a panic button. And the sources really stress this. Flow is about continuation. It is not about speed. You can speak slowly and still have incredible flow.
That distinction is everything. Flow breaks when people stop too often. And why do they stop? Well, usually for one of 3 reasons. They're hunting for that one perfect word, or they're mentally checking a grammar rule mid-sentence. Or, and this is the biggest confidence killer of all, they stop to correct a tiny mistake they just made.
That stopping and starting, that's what does it. It makes even a really competent speaker sound hesitant. Every time you stop the momentum, your listener has to work harder, and they subconsciously feel that struggle.
Which is why we've pulled this one key idea from the sources. We're calling it the flow rule. And the rule is, finish the idea before fixing the sentence.
And that's so hard to do, isn't it? Especially if you're a perfectionist. You want to get it right, so you stop, you restart, maybe say it again. But fluent speakers just don't do that. They adjust on the fly.
Yeah, let's make that real. Let's say you want to say, I think the strategy is very useful, but you accidentally say effective, the novice stops, they go, wait, no, I think, and the whole thought just grinds to a halt.
But the confident communicator keeps it moving. They might say, I think this plan is, well, it's effective, or maybe a better word is useful, because it hits our main targets. See, the main idea got through. The correction was just woven in. It's natural human speech, not a failure.
And to help you protect that momentum, the sources give us a couple of tools. The first is to use connectors like bridges. Words like so, because, but. That's why. There's signals to your listener that say, hang on, I'm not done. They give you a path from one idea to the next without a dead stop.
Okay, and then there's the other tool, the one that's a bit controversial, fillers. You're talking about words like, well, or even, and. But wait a second. Aren't we always taught that those are bad, that we should eliminate them?
We are, and that's the big misunderstanding. Fillers aren't mistakes. The sources call them flow protectors. When you use them right, they buy you a split second to find your next word without breaking the rhythm. A pause that's filled with a well or a so is so much better than just dead, frozen silence.
That's the key then. Silence makes the listener think you're lost. A filler makes them think you're thinking. And thinking is a sign of intelligence, not incompetence. So you just have to use them wisely.
Exactly. So if flow is the highway, then tone is the engine. Let's move to that second pillar.
Tone is huge. And we're not talking about your accent. Tone is the emotion your voice carries. It tells the listener your internal state. Are you confident or are you unsure? Calm or nervous? It's everything. And it often matters so much more than the actual words you choose.
Right. And in a professional setting, we see 3 habits that just scream uncertainty, no matter what you're saying. The first, and it's the most common one, is the rising tone at the end of a statement.
Ah, yes, the classic uptalk.
Exactly that. You take a perfectly good statement like, the report is finished, and by letting your voice go up at the end, you turn it into a question. It sounds like, the report is finished. You sound like you're asking for permission or approval.
And the second habit is speaking way too fast, which just sounds nervous, like you want it to be over. And then the third is the opposite, a totally flat voice, which just sounds like you're bored by your own words.
The good news is these are just mechanics. Once you're aware of them, you can control them.
Okay, so let's get into the techniques. 3 things you can do. First, slow down slightly. We're not talking about speaking in slow motion.
Yeah.
Just enough to feel in control, enough to give yourself time to breathe. A controlled pace just sounds like command.
And the second one, this is absolutely key for sounding authoritative. Lower your voice at the end of your sentences. It's a physical thing. A lower pitch signals completion, finality. When your voice drops, it tells a listener, the thought is complete. That's the fact.
You're stating it, not asking for agreement on it.
Precisely. And the third technique sounds so simple. Breathe before you speak. If you're rushing, you're holding tension in your chest, in your throat. And that tension makes your voice sound higher, strained. A calm breath literally creates a calm, more authoritative tone.
So we have flow and tone, the sound of confidence. But now we need the last pillar, the one that's working even when you're not speaking, body language.
The silent communicator. And what a lot of people miss is how your body and your voice are connected. Even on a phone call, if you're hunched over and tense, your voice will sound tight and constricted. You can literally hear bad posture.
A lot of people do that, right? They focus so hard on the language that their whole body tenses up. They forget that their body is speaking too.
Yes, and we see 4 common mistakes that just weaken your presence. Stiff posture, closed off shoulders like folding your arms, nervous fidgeting, and the most important one, poor eye contact.
Let's focus on eye contact for a second, because I see this all the time. People speaking a second language, they look down at the floor or kind of up over your head.
And what the sources say is that you're looking at your thoughts. You're searching inside your brain for the next word, the next grammar rule. And your listener reads that as a break in connection, a lack of conviction. It just erodes trust instantly.
So the adjustments are all about building that trust back. It's about physical openness. First, sit or stand upright. It opens up your diaphragm, helps your breathing, helps your tone. Second, just relax your shoulders. Let them drop. Third, use your hands naturally. Don't hide them. They're part of your rhythm.
And fourth, look at the listener. Maintain that connection. It signals that your focus is on them and on the shared message, not on your own internal struggle.
Okay, so now we can really see how these three: flow, tone, and body language aren't separate things. They're one interconnected system.
Oh, it's a loop. And it can be a vicious cycle. If your flow breaks, you kind of gasp, and then your tone gets weaker, your tone weakens, your confidence drops, your body tenses up. And that makes it even harder to speak with good flow. It just feeds on itself.
But, and this is the hopeful part, the positive loop is just as powerful. If you just decide to slow down a little bit, your tone automatically gets better because you can breathe. Your tone gets better, you feel more confident, your body relaxes. And when your body relaxes, your flow improves. It all works together.
Which brings us to the big question. Why does this matter so much? Because here is the single most powerful realization from all our research. Simple English with strong delivery beats advanced English with weak delivery. Every single time. Listeners remember the confidence, not the complexity.
They remember how you made them feel, like you were in command, easy to follow. Not whether you used a specific advanced verb tense. So how do we practice this? How do we build this muscle memory without just doing more grammar exercises?
The sources offer a very specific and kind of counterintuitive practice. It's the daily 5-minute practice. You pick one simple topic, your morning, the weather, your coffee, anything, and you just speak for 1 minute. But, and this is the key, you focus only on a calm pace, a clear ending to your thoughts, and a relaxed body.
So for that 1 minute, you just completely ignore grammar. If you make a mistake, you don't stop.
You do not stop. You use a filler, you use a connector, and you keep the idea moving. This trains the muscle of unstoppable delivery. It separates the act of speaking from the pressure of being perfect.
And just as important as what to do, they're the anti-routines, the things to stop doing. Don't rush to sound fluent. Don't overcorrect yourself. Don't hide in silence. And don't let your body tense up. Communication is presence. It's not a performance.
Exactly.
So let's bring it all together. You're heading into your next conversation. What's the final check? The key mindset.
It's simple. You just ask yourself 2 questions. First, does my voice sound calm? And second, does my body look and feel relaxed?
And if the answer to both of those is yes, then your communication is strong, period. You'll be heard, you'll be respected, even if you make a few small mistakes. The framework is solid.
And we'll anchor this whole deep dive with one final provocative thought for you to take away. It's a fundamental truth from our sources. People decide if they trust how you speak long before they ever judge what you say. Flow, tone, and body language. Those are the tools that build that trust. Focus there, and everything else will follow. Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're tackling something I think is maybe the greatest barrier to mastering a new skill.
Oh, for sure.
And that's the lack of a practice partner, specifically when it comes to communication. Everyone knows it's crucial, but how do you actually get better?
Right.
If you don't have, a captive audience or a friend who's willing to sit through all your awkward pauses?
It's the single biggest psychological hurdle, isn't it? People just assume the only way to improve is through some kind of high-stakes performance.
Like a job interview.
A job interview, a presentation, a real conversation. But our sources, they really challenge that idea head on. They basically propose that you don't improve by knowing the rules, but by doing the work. Daily. And crucially, even if you are entirely alone.
Exactly. So the mission for this depth dive is to really unpack the solo daily communication practice system. It's a complete structured routine. We're talking 25 to 30 minutes, and it's all designed to get rid of that one huge obstacle.
If I don't have anyone to practice with.
That one. And it's all built on removing pressure, removing fear, and making practice something you can actually do, in your own living room. So, okay. Let's unpack this thing.
Well, before we even jump into the 4 stages, the entire system rests on this one. This one critical psychological foundation.
Okay.
And if you miss this rule, you honestly risk failure within the first few days.
Right. What is it?
The rule is practice is not performance.
That sounds really simple, almost too simple. What does that actually mean for someone who's at home setting their timer?
It means you are not trying to sound impressive. You're not trying to be witty or profound. You're training 3 very simple things: clarity, calmness, and continuous expression.
Okay.
The second you start grading yourself on how good you sound,
Yeah.
that's performance anxiety. That's it creeping in.
Right, the inner critic.
Exactly. Performance introduces fear, training introduces growth. This distinction is really the engine that stops you from burning out. You're just building neurological muscle, not auditioning for a role.
So we're shifting focus from validation to just velocity, getting the reps in over trying to be perfect.
That's it.
So if we're treating it like a workout, how do we structure it? The sources are really clear on this. 4 stages, and you have to follow them in order.
But can't skip ahead. And that structure is so vital because communication problems, they almost always start in the mind, not in the mouth.
Which brings us right to stage 1, thought clarity. 5 minutes on the clock for this.
Yep.
This is that crucial pre-speaking step, just organizing your thinking before you even say a word out loud.
And the process is simple. You just choose one topic. Doesn't have to be anything huge.
Like what?
Oh, your plan for the afternoon, an opinion on a news story, a problem you're trying to solve. But before you speak, you have to silently answer 2 questions.
Okay, these silent questions. What are they and why are they so foundational to this whole thing?
They are. What is my main point? And why does it matter?
Why does it matter?
And that second one is arguably the most powerful. It forces you to find a purpose. Because if you can't answer why it matters to you, you really have no business trying to communicate it to someone else.
Okay, wait a minute. If I'm just talking to myself in a room, why do I need to establish a purpose? Isn't that a little bit of overkill?
See, it's about training mental discipline. If you skip this step, your later communication, even when you are with another person, it's just going to lack direction. It's going to lack conviction.
I see.
You're training your brain to build a mental blueprint. So when you do get into a real conversation, the scaffolding is already there. You've basically trained the ability to synthesize quickly.
So 5 minutes of silent organization prevents 10 minutes of just verbal stumbling later on?
That's the idea.
Okay, that makes sense. Clarity starts in the silence. So once that blueprint is done, we move into stage 2. Calm speaking. This is the next 5 to 7 minutes.
Right. And this is the first time you're actually moving from organizing to expressing.
And the rules here, they seem pretty restrictive.
They are, and for very good reason. Your focus is on your pace, not your content. You have to speak slowly, clearly, use short sentences.
And maintain a calm pace.
An even calm pace. And the most critical rule of all, no correction.
Okay, that no correction rule feels counterintuitive. Aren't you just building bad habits if you ignore your mistakes?
Well, this is where we link right back to that core rule, right? Practice is not performance.
Right.
This stage is almost entirely psychological training. You're teaching your brain that the act of just expressing yourself isn't punishable. By stopping that mental backspace key from firing.
The inner critic again.
That internal critic, yeah. If you remove the pressure that causes all the hesitation and the fear, it's like teaching a kid to walk. You just want them to keep moving forward, even if they stumble.
You're prioritizing the continuity of sound over the perfection of grammar.
Perfectly put. You're basically training your nervous system to be calm while you speak. You're making the language feel safe.
Okay, so after we feel safe, we move into the challenge phase.
Yeah.
The high-intensity part of the workout, stage 3, free communication.
Yes, and this is the longest and most important stage. A full 10 minutes.
And what's the goal here?
It's an endurance test. You set the timer for 10 minutes, and the singular non-negotiable goal is just continuation. You have to speak continuously until that timer goes off.
10 minutes of nonstop talking sounds like a marathon for someone who's not comfortable communicating.
It is.
So what are the rules here that allow you to actually sustain that flow?
You have to accept chaos. That's the main rule. No stopping. Repetition is totally fine. Yeah. Fillers.
The ums and ahs.
The ums, the ahs, the likes, the you-knows, they are allowed. In fact, they're encouraged because they're the psychological lubricant that keeps the engine running. Mistakes are absolutely ignored.
You just push through.
If you hit a verbal wall, you are training the habit of pushing right through it.
I love that the sources give this really tactical advice for when you freeze up. What were those bridge phrases they mentioned?
They're phrases that just buy you a little cognitive time but keep the flow going. Things that, native speakers use all the time without thinking.
Like what?
Like, what I mean is, or let me explain that differently. These aren't cheating. They're actual tools for maintaining verbal momentum. When you use them, you're training yourself to avoid silence.
So this highlights the core philosophy of the stage, which is that communication grows through completion, not correction.
Yes.
You're forcing the language production center of your brain to just work and work for a sustained period, building sheer endurance.
Exactly. You're prioritizing the finish line. In stage 2, we learn calm expression. Here, in stage 3, we train resilience and flow. Most people stop when they struggle.
Right.
This system forces you to normalize that struggle and just keep going, which is the exact skill you need in a high-pressure conversation.
Okay, so after that demanding 10 minutes of flow, the sources say you can't just jump up and walk away.
No, you have to shift into the final necessary pause. Stage 4, reflection, which is about 3 to 5 minutes.
A non-judgmental debrief.
Critical. And crucially, the sources emphasize what you absolutely must not judge. You do not pull out a grammar checklist. You don't critique your accent or your vocabulary choices.
Because that just brings back the performance anxiety.
Instantly. It undoes all the good work from the earlier stages.
So what should we be judging then? How do we measure if we did well if we're ignoring all the mechanics?
You only focus on effectiveness and the core training goals. You ask yourself 3 simple questions.
Which are?
Was my main point clear? That's from stage 1. Did I stay calm? That's stage 2. And did I finish my ideas? Stage 3.
So you're assessing the execution of the structure, not the quality of the language itself.
That's it. You're reflecting on the delivery system, not the package that was inside it. If you can consistently execute your structure, stay calm, and complete your ideas, the language, it will polish itself over time.
Driven by external feedback in the real world.
Precisely.
Yeah.
If you're clear and calm, you are effective. That's the goal.
Okay, so we have the 25 to 30-minute daily routine. But now we need to talk about the second biggest killer of progress.
Ah, yes, the all or nothing trap.
Right. And this is where the weekly rhythm comes in.
Consistency over intensity. It's always the mantra for learning, but people burn out. They try to go 7 days a week, and it's just not sustainable.
So what's the optimal rhythm that the sources recommend?
The weekly rhythm is structured to prevent fatigue and actually allow the skills to settle in. It's 4 days of the full system stages 1 through 4.
Okay. 4 days on?
2 days of light communication. That just means stage 2, calm speaking, and stage 3, free communication only.
And the last day?
And 1 full day of rest, or, active listening, no speaking practice at all.
That 2-day light practice is actually genius. It keeps the motor running, but without the mental load of stage 1 organization or stage 4 reflection.
It lowers the activation energy. It makes it easier to just show up.
Then what about that rest day? People always want to skip the rest day.
But you can't. Rest is an active part of learning. When you sleep or you take a day off, your brain is busy consolidating all those new neural pathways you built.
Ah.
If you push 7 days straight, you deny your brain the chance to let those skills settle, and they just don't stick. You end up fighting yourself.
Okay, let's talk traps. If you're going to commit to this system, you need to know what common behaviors you have to just excise from your routine, the mistakes that will absolutely kill your progress.
We found 5 major traps. The first one is so common. Practicing only in your head.
Oh, I'm guilty of that. Just thinking through the conversation in my mind.
Right, and it feels so productive, doesn't it? But you're bypassing the physical feedback loop. You need to hear your own voice, feel the rhythm of the words.
Manage your breath.
Manage your breath, exactly. Thinking is not speaking.
Okay, trap number 2, you already mentioned, the all or nothing trap. Skipping days after missing one.
Yeah. If you miss a Tuesday, you don't declare the week of failure and just quit until next Monday. You just start again on Wednesday. Yeah. Consistency is forgiving. Perfectionism is brutal.
The third trap goes back to stage 2, correcting every sentence.
We've covered that. It just kills flow. It breeds fear. You have to let the practice session be messy.
And the fourth one is about ambition, aiming for advanced English instead of clear English.
Yes. If you're constantly reaching for some esoteric vocabulary or these complex sentence structures, you're introducing complexity that just undermines clarity.
Clear first, complicated never.
That's the rule. And the final mistake, which directly sabotages that 10-minute endurance goal.
Let me guess. Stopping mid-idea.
Stopping mid-idea. You have to prioritize completion. If you feel yourself wanting to stop, use one of those bridge phrases, but you keep speaking until that timer dings.
So if you can avoid those 5 traps, stick to that 421 rhythm. What's the shift people will see?
The sources promise a really profound, noticeable shift. Week by week, you just You stop needing those bridge phrases as much because your thoughts organize faster. Sentences come out smoother, pauses start to feel calm and intentional, and that underlying fear of expression, it just starts to dissolve.
So that's the real measure of success. You stop trying to communicate better.
Because the process has trained the skill right into your system.
So what's the ultimate single rule that kind of summarizes the daily goal and ties all this together?
It's the goal you set for yourself every single time you sit down. And your only daily objective is deceptively simple. Express one idea clearly.
Not perfectly.
Not perfectly.
Not beautifully.
Not beautifully. Just clearly.
That completely redefines what success for the day looks like.
It's a huge psychological shift. By focusing just on clarity in the privacy of your own space, you fundamentally change the relationship you have with the language.
You stop seeing it as something to be performed or judged.
And you start seeing it as just a tool for self-expression.
So over time, you stop thinking, I'm practicing communication, and you start thinking.
I'm just expressing myself.
That transition from a forced chore to just natural self-expression, that's the whole point of this 25 to 30-minute investment.
It is. It's powerful to realize that the highest leverage communication training you can possibly do doesn't involve convincing another person of anything.
It's about convincing yourself.
Convincing yourself that your voice deserves to be heard, clearly.
And that leads us to our final thought for you to mull over. If the greatest inhibitor to communication improvement for most of us is the belief that we need a partner or an audience, how does the ability to practice alone and to achieve that clarity and flow in total isolation, how does that fundamentally change your relationship with language and with self-reliance?
It transforms what you thought was your weakness into your greatest strength. If you're learning English, I think you know this feeling. It's this incredibly frustrating gap. You study, you practice alone, and it's perfect. The vocabulary is there, the grammar feels solid.
Right.
But the second you step into a real-world situation, like a big job interview or a meeting with leadership, it all just vanishes. You freeze up.
Or you ramble. It's the cruelest learning paradox. And the sources we've looked at today, they really nail what's going on.
And it's not what you'd think.
It's not a failure of language. It's a failure of, well, psychological structure. Real life adds these massive elements that you just don't get in practice.
Like what?
Intense pressure, high expectations, judgment, and of course, time limits.
So we're really talking about the gap between knowing the language and, actually performing when your stress levels are just through the roof.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here, the core insight from all the material is this. Real-life communication isn't harder because the English gets harder.
Right, it's not a different dialect.
It's harder because the emotions change. The sources all point to this internal chaos. Fear rises. Your attention splits between what you're trying to say and how the other person is reacting.
And your confidence just tanks.
It completely shakes. So you're basically battling your own psychology as much as you're battling with vocabulary.
That is such a vital distinction. It means the solution isn't just more grammar drills. The solution is tactical.
It's structure to stabilize the mind.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission for this deep dive is to pull out those tactical structures, those mental shifts that let you stay clear and confident even when the pressure is at its peak.
We're diving into specific scenarios to counter those emotional challenges with some really practical frameworks.
And first up is the place where this happens every single day.
The office environment.
Yeah, when we talk about English in the workplace, the sources are really clear. This isn't about, giving some grand, eloquent speech.
Not at all. Office English is all about clarity. It's updates, decisions, cooperation. It's simple, it's direct, and honestly, it's often really repetitive.
Which is actually good news.
It's great news for a learner. It lowers the cognitive load. You don't need to invent new ways to say things all the time. What you need isn't advanced English, it's prepared clarity.
Okay, prepared clarity.
The core principle here, and it's designed to cut right through that anxiety, is so simple. Say less, but say it clearly.
I see how that works. I know when I'm nervous, I tend to over-explain. I think more words will make it clear.
But they don't. The sources suggest that just creates confusion and it makes you sound less confident.
Right.
The moment pressure hits, your brain defaults to either avoidance or, like you said, overcomplication. So by following this say less idea, you stop trying to explain every single detail.
And you just focus on what matter.
You focus on just three things.
Yeah.
The main update, the main problem or risk, and the next action. That's it.
Can we get into some of those specific patterns? Because I imagine having those phrases ready to go feels like, I don't know, mental armor.
Absolutely. The material gives us these really useful professional patterns. They're designed to inform, not to impress, so you can establish control right away with something like, I'd like to give a quick update.
Or get right to the point with, the main issue we're encountering is.
Exactly. And then there are the ones that manage expectations. From my side, things are on track for the deadline.
Or, if you need to push back a little, we need to reassess the timeline for this specific component.
And my favorite, the universal closer. I'll follow up on that immediately. They're simple sentences, but they signal competence instantly.
They let you participate, even if you're not feeling 100% confident that day.
Speaking of confidence, the sources have this critical tip for your physical presence, especially for those impromptu situations.
The dreaded hallway check-in. Your boss just catches you on the way to a meeting.
Pure stress. And the tip is this. If you feel nervous, consciously slow down your speech. Lower your voice just a little bit. And this is the most important part, pause right before you make your key point.
Why does that work so well? It seems like such a small thing.
It's all about control. When you control your pace, you interrupt that nervous spiral that makes you rush and stumble.
You're forcing yourself to be present.
You're forcing yourself to breathe, to choose your words. And that deliberate delivery just reads as authority, even if all you say is, I'll follow up on that. It buys you a couple of seconds to think.
Okay, so if the office is about prepared clarity, interviews are a whole different beast. It's about handling that intense personal scrutiny.
Yeah, interviews are so stressful because that feeling of being judged triggers a really deep human fear.
The fear of the unknown.
Exactly. You don't know the questions, you don't know what they want. So the key isn't to just perform on the fly. It's preemptive structure.
A consistent structure for your answers.
When you have that, the fear goes down because you're following a safe path no matter what the question is.
Which brings us to a huge takeaway. The 3-step interview answer structure. The sources say you should use this every single time.
It's a simple framework, but it's incredibly powerful for managing pressure. It forces your answer to be logical and, concise.
So step 1.
Step 1 is the direct answer, just the absolute point of your reply. Step 2 is short explanation for context.
And step 3.
A simple example, concrete proof.
Okay, let's play this out. An interviewer asks, do you have experience managing cross-functional projects? What does the nervous, unstructured answer sound like?
Ooh, it's a ramble. Last year we had this huge project and I was involved, but only for a bit. And it was hard because marketing was late, so I tried to help them, but I wasn't the manager, but I helped organize.
It's messy. You lose the interviewer and you lose your credibility.
Totally. Now let's try it with the 3-step structure.
Same question.
Yes, I have extensive experience managing cross-functional projects. Direct answer. I've worked as the lead coordinator on multiple initiatives over the past 4 years. Short explanation. For example, I led the launch of our Q3 product line, which required weekly meetings across 3 global teams and achieved a 15% revenue increase. Simple example.
Wow, night and day. It's just validation, context, and proof. There's no room for them to doubt you.
It forces organization on your brain when you're under pressure. But what about when you don't even understand the question?
That moment of sheer panic where you just nod and pretend you heard it.
Yes. The sources are so clear on this. Never panic and never, ever guess. You have to use a calm, direct phrase to get clarity.
Like what?
Something as simple as, could you please repeat the question? Or even, can you clarify that? Are you asking about my technical skills or my leadership approach?
But the fear for a learner is that asking for a repeat shows their English is weak.
And that's a huge mistake. This is a critical mindset shift. Asking for clarity doesn't show weakness.
It shows confidence.
It shows confidence, attention to detail, a commitment to accuracy. It signals that you care more about giving the right answer than you do about your own discomfort. That's a huge plus for an employer.
Okay, let's move on to maybe the highest stakes scenario of all, presentations.
The triple threat. You have speaking, you have an audience watching you, and you have that clock ticking down.
But I imagine the same principle applies.
It does. A presentation is all about managing the audience's comprehension. So we introduce the presentation communication rule. Guide the listener. You are their tour guide. Don't let them get lost.
Which means that structure of tell them what you'll say it, then remind them what you said.
It feels repetitive to you as the speaker, but for the listener, it's essential. It relieves them of the burden of guessing where you're going.
And the tool for this is what the sources call signposting.
Right. These are short, explicit phrases that manage expectations and, just as important, reduce your own stress because you always know what's coming next.
Can you give us some examples?
Sure, they're simple, but so powerful. At the beginning,
Yeah.
First, I'll talk about the historical context.
And then when you're moving on.
Next, let's look at the forecasted impact. And to wrap up a section, finally, I want to highlight the 3 key takeaways.
The research actually suggests using a signpost every few minutes, right?
Every 2 to 3 minutes or after every major topic shift, it hugely increases retention.
But what about sounding natural? If I'm using all this structure, don't I risk sounding, robotic?
That's a great question, and it leads right to the main presentation confidence tip. The sources are adamant. Do not memorize your full script.
We've all been there. You memorize it, you miss one word, and the whole thing just collapses internally.
It's a disaster. Instead, you memorize idea points, the 3 bullets on your slide, the key concept of the section.
Because that gives you flexibility.
Idea awareness creates flexibility. Your brain is free to build the sentences in the moment. It's so much more natural and resilient than just reciting a fragile script.
It's about the message structure, not the word structure.
That's the shift. And now, let's shift our own focus a bit. Away from these high-stakes planned events to the most powerful training ground there is.
Daily communication.
Daily life. These frequent, low-pressure, natural chats are where small conversations build really big confidence.
I think we often dismiss that stuff as not real practice.
And that's such a missed opportunity. We're talking about asking a colleague for help, small talk by the coffee machine, ordering food.
Low-stakes interactions.
Exactly. They let you practice and recover without this huge penalty hanging over you.
And the goal isn't to deliver a monologue?
No, the goal is just participation. That's what builds comfort and fluency. And there are easy ways in. You can just say, "How's it going? It's a busy day today."
Or even just simple responses to show you're engaged, like, "That makes sense," or "I agree with that point."
It's about interaction, not debate. The insight here is that comfort in English is built on the quantity of interactions, not the complexity of the grammar you use.
Each small success desensitizes your brain to that fear of speaking.
Yes, and since we're talking about real interaction, we have to talk about mistakes. Because everyone makes them.
Even native speakers.
Constantly. What matters is not the mistake, but the recovery. And there are specific calm recovery phrases for this.
So instead of freezing up or, apologizing for your English, which just highlights the error.
You shift focus back to the message. You lean into recovery with phrases that signal control, like, "Sorry, let me say that again."
Or what I mean is,
"We need to focus on X." Or simply, "Let me rephrase that." These keep the listener focused on your message, not your mistake.
this all connects to what might be the most important psychological shift in all the source material.
I think so. It's called the transition rule. It's the rule for how to get started when you just feel completely overwhelmed.
Okay, what is it?
Don't wait to feel ready. Start while you feel nervous.
That's a big ask.
It is, but confidence comes after the action, not before it. Every single real interaction, no matter how small, is like a deposit in your confidence bank. You have to actively push past that anxiety and just do it.
So once you start speaking, what are the big things to avoid doing? The things that would sabotage that momentum?
The sources list a few. 1, don't apologize for your English. It just diminishes your authority.
Okay.
Don't explain your level like I'm only intermediate. Don't switch languages too quickly. Stick with it. And the big one, don't stop mid-idea and just go silent.
You have to keep going. Stay present, stay calm, continue the flow.
That persistence is what defines communication strength. And this leads us to the final critical mindset shift. It's about how you measure your own success.
The sources tell us we have to stop asking that one paralyzing question. Did I sound perfect?
And instead, start asking the actionable question, did the message reach the listener?
That changes everything.
It immediately moves your focus from self-judgment to connection. When it stops being about sounding flawless and starts being about delivering a message, English stops feeling so heavy. It starts feeling usable.
So to wrap this deep dive up, structure is your shield against fear, whether it's the 3-step answer in an interview or signposting in a presentation.
And emotional control, like slowing down and pausing, creates instant authority.
And above all, the transition rule. Confidence is a result of action, not a requirement for it. You have to get out there and start talking.
Which, it raises a really interesting question. If communication strength is really defined by staying present and just continuing the conversation, and if we have to start while we're still nervous, what if the most important skill isn't technical perfection at all.
What if it's something else?
What if it's just stubborn, communicative persistence? Just the sheer refusal to stop talking until your message gets through. We encourage you to reflect on that question as you step into your next conversation.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the information that helps you connect the dots. Welcome back to the deep dive. So let's talk about that feeling. You know the one.
Oh, I think we all do.
You've spent hundreds, maybe thousands of hours learning English. You can read it, you understand it, your vocabulary is huge.
You can even ace the grammar quizzes.
Exactly. But then the moment of truth arrives. A meeting, a job interview, and your brain just hits the panic button.
It just vanishes. All that knowledge feels completely locked away. It's an incredibly common struggle.
And what's so frustrating is that you know it's in there somewhere.
It is. And our sources really point out that this isn't a failure of ability. It's a failure of direction. People just don't know what to do, what to practice every single day to build that bridge.
They're running a marathon without a map.
Yeah.
And that's what we're getting into today.
Right.
The source material we have lays out a very specific, a very intentional 90-day plan.
A plan designed to turn that passive knowledge into an active, usable skill.
The idea here is that communication skill doesn't just happen by accident. It happens by design. We're going to unpack 3 distinct 30-day phases.
And these phases are designed to take you from that initial state of, fear and confusion to a place of functional clarity and real confidence.
So our mission today is to break down that daily commitment. What are the routines? Why are they built this way? And how do they actually work? Let's dive into phase 1. Okay, phase 1, the first 30 days. This is all about clarity, safety, and foundation.
And the number one priority here is psychological. It's about making English communication feel safe.
Safe, not fluent, not perfect.
Not at all. Because if your brain sees speaking as a threat, it shuts everything down. You lose access to the words you already know. So the goal is simply clarity and comfort. We are taking the pressure completely off the table.
And the daily time commitment here is, only 20 minutes? I mean, some people might hear that and think, how can 20 minutes a day make any real difference?
And that's a fair question. The sources are very clear on this. It's about consistency over intensity.
Right.
If you're anxious about speaking, telling you to practice for an hour a day is a recipe for burnout. You'll just avoid it.
But 20 minutes feels manageable. It feels doable.
It's doable. You can build a real habit without triggering all that anxiety. It's about showing up every day.
Okay, that makes sense. You're conditioning the brain. And during this phase, you're training 4 specific skills: clear thinking, calm expression, listening awareness, and idea completion.
Precisely. And for those 20 minutes, the focus is strict. Use simple English, speak slowly, and practice just one idea at a time. And always finish your thoughts.
Completion over complexity.
Always.
So let's get into the actual routine. The plan breaks down the 20 minutes into a very specific 4-step process. What's step 1?
Step 1 is 5 minutes of thought clarity. And the rule is no speaking aloud.
No speaking at all.
None. This is about deciding on your one main message before you even try to say it. When we panic, we try to think and speak at the same time.
And that's what causes the freeze.
It is. By separating the two, you lower the cognitive load. It's a simple, powerful anti-panic mechanism.
I love that. So once your idea is clear, then you move to step 2.
Step 2 is calm speaking. Another 5 minutes. Here, you just explain that one idea you clarified, but you do it slowly.
The focus is on control, not trying to sound impressive.
Exactly. You're training your voice to be calm, your pace to be measured. Then you get 7 minutes of free expression. This is where you just speak without stopping.
Even if it's messy.
Even if it's messy, simple, or repetitive. The goal is just to keep the voice moving, to build flow.
And the final 3 minutes.
Reflection. And this is critical. You ask yourself only one question. Was my message clear?
Not was my grammar perfect.
Definitely not. You're retraining your brain to value effective communication over linguistic performance. Clarity is the goal.
So by the end of this first month, what's the expected result?
The sources promise a real reduction in fear, much better control over your voice, and clearer ideas. You've built the foundation. That feeling of safety is what makes everything else possible.
Yeah.
And that foundation of safety is what lets you move right into phase 2. This is days 31 to 60.
So we've got clarity down, now what?
Now we build flow and confidence. This is where you start connecting everything, the thinking, the speaking, the listening, so it starts to feel, natural.
And the daily commitment goes up a little bit here to 25 minutes.
Just a little. And the focus shifts. Now it's about connecting ideas, responding more naturally, and really practicing active listening.
So you're moving from just outputting a single idea to having more of a dynamic exchange.
Exactly. You want it to feel like a conversation, not a series of choppy statements.
So how does the daily routine change to build that flow?
It becomes more dynamic. You start with 5 minutes of listening practice, but this is targeted. You're listening for meaning, for the main idea, not trying to catch every single word.
You're trying to stay present instead of getting lost in the grammar.
Yes. And then comes the really interesting part, 10 minutes of structured speaking.
Okay, how is that different from the free expression in phase 1?
It's all about adding structure. This is where you learn a really foundational method for organizing your thoughts. It's simple. Point, reason, example.
Point, reason, example. That seems almost too simple. But I can see how that would be a powerful tool against anxiety.
It's a predictable framework, and predictable frameworks reduce panic. You always know what to say next.
Can you walk us through a quick example? Let's say I'm asked about my preference for working remotely.
Perfect. So your point is simple. I'm more productive when I work from home.
Right.
Your reason, because I have fewer distractions. And then your example. For instance, last week I finished a major report 2 days early because I could really focus in the afternoons.
Wow. Okay, that's a complete, coherent, professional answer. It's not just a single sentence.
And that structure ensures you don't just stall out after stating your opinion. It gives you a path to follow.
And the last 10 minutes.
That's free communication. Now you're practicing speaking as if you're in a real conversation, trying to use those new organizational skills instinctively.
So by day 60, halfway through, what are the results?
Learners report much smoother speech. They can respond more quickly because they have that structure to fall back on. There's way less overthinking and just a real boost in confidence. The communication starts to actually flow.
All right, we've established clarity and flow. Now we hit phase 3, real-life communication mastery. This is days 61 to 90.
This is where we pressure test the system.
Sounds intense.
It is, but that's the goal. Usability. You have the calm foundation, you have the internal flow. Now you have to see if those skills hold up in realistic scenarios.
And the focus here is on confidence over perfection.
Absolutely. It's about delivering your message effectively when it counts. The practice shifts to very specific high-stakes situations.
Like what? What are we talking about here?
The sources list things like office communication, job interviews, structured meetings, the kind of conversations that can really define your professional life.
So you're training for the moments that matter most. The daily commitment goes up one last time, right?
Yeah.
To 30 minutes.
It does. And the focus is all on maintaining clarity under pressure and also bringing in tone and body language, the full communication package.
Wait, tone and body language. How do you practice that on your own? Or you suggest like talking to a mirror?
The plan suggests both internal observation and, yes, sometimes recording yourself.
Ah, okay.
Using your phone to record a practice session lets you see and hear what others do. Your posture, your tone, your speaking speed, it makes you consciously integrate all those nonverbal cues.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's break down this final routine. Step 1 is 10 minutes of situation practice.
And this is highly targeted. You're practicing a specific output, giving a project update, answering a tough interview question, introducing a presentation.
It's like a dress rehearsal.
Exactly. Then step 2 is another 10 minutes of free speaking, but this is more advanced now. It's about explaining complex ideas confidently, using that point, reason, example structure when you need it.
And maintaining your calm, even with the simulated pressure.
That's the key. And finally, a full 10 minutes for review and adjustment.
And you're asking much deeper questions now.
Much deeper. Not just, was I clear, but what worked, what felt rushed, how could I adjust my delivery next time? It's that detailed self-analysis that really solidifies the skill.
So what's the final transformation after 90 days?
The sources say it's about calm expression, a confident presence, and getting better reactions from listeners because your ideas are just so much clearer. The best description I read was that English no longer feels heavy.
You know, the routines are fascinating, but the thing that really stands out from the material is the internal shift that's happening, the psychological transformation.
It's the whole game. I mean, at its core, communication anxiety is about self-criticism. It's about performance.
You're constantly grading yourself against this impossible standard.
Is my grammar good enough? Is my accent okay? And the plan is designed to slowly pivot you away from that. Over 90 days, you stop asking that self-defeating question.
Is my English good enough?
And you start asking the only question that actually matters in communication.
Is my message clear?
That's the pivot. It's subtle, but it's profound. It liberates you.
You stop performing for this imaginary panel of judges in your head, and you start focusing on the person in front of you, on connection.
You move from performing to connecting, and that is the absolute definition of real communication skill.
So the final truth here isn't really about learning more English.
Not at all. It's about learning to use the English you already have, but clearly, calmly, and confidently. This plan just gives you the structure to build the neural pathways to make that happen.
It turns that knowledge you have stored away into a tool you can actually use. So what does this all mean for you? We've walked through the 3 phases. Phase 1 for safety and clarity.
Phase 2 for building that fluid flow and organization.
And phase 3 for mastering it all in real-life situations.
This whole 90-day plan is really an antidote to the information overload, to that feeling of what should I study next. It just gives you clear, precise, daily direction.
It provides the consistency that's so often missing when you try to tackle this alone.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to consider. If the ultimate goal really is connection, not perfection, what's the one tiny habit you could start today?
Just 5 minutes?
Just 5 minutes. Could you practice the thought clarity exercise from phase 1 or the calm speaking exercise? What's one small step you could take to make your own communication feel just a little bit safer, starting right now?
If you're listening to this and thinking, I understand English, but I still struggle to communicate, know this: there is nothing wrong with you. You were never taught how to communicate in English. You were only taught about English. And today, that changes.
Communication is not a talent you're missing. It's a skill you're building, one clear idea at a time. Every time you choose clarity over perfection, calm over fear, and expression over silence, you are becoming a stronger communicator.
So don't wait for confidence. Don't wait for perfect English. Choose one small action today. Speak one idea. Listen with intention. Finish your thought. That's how real change begins.
If this episode helped you see English differently, stay with us. Subscribe to English Speak Pulse and make communication practice part of your daily life. Not a source of stress, but a source of strength.
And if you know someone who understands English, but struggles to express themselves, share this episode with them. Because clear communication doesn't just change your English. It changes how the world hears you.
Your voice matters. Your ideas matter. And with practice, your English communication will reflect that.